Well, I guess being a latecomer to Comic-Con does have some advantages. So I was sitting at my desk working on my next video about Spinel when suddenly this pops in my notification box. The intro for a new Steven Universe limited epilogue series called Steven Universe Future. Now my initial reaction was your typical odd fanboy noise, something akin to this. But after watching it a few more times, and considering I'm on a Steven Universe kick with my videos anyway, I decided to take a look at every single significant thing in this 22-second intro and give my predictions on what exactly we can expect for the future of the show. As usual, this is just all my personal assumptions, and I'd like to hear what you guys think in the comments below. But for now, let's get all these hype fumes out of my system and pick out every puzzle piece prediction I can find in this video. Here we go. So the trailer starts off with something everyone has wanted to see for multiple seasons at this point. Lapis, Peridot, and Bismuth are finally front and center in the show's intro. This hints that they're going to be main characters instead of side characters in this series, and I am all for that. Anything that gets me constant Peridot appearances is a-okay in my book. You'll also notice that the theme song for this series is different from the main series, using the song Happily Ever After from the movie instead of We Are the Crystal Gems like we're used to. Not only does this help to differentiate the two series from each other, but it's also a nice way to show how much things have changed while also keeping familiar elements we all remember. Every Steven Universe fan can recognize the show's intro from the very first word uttered, we. So they kept that word as an homage to the original theme song, and instead of having only Garnet sing it since she was technically the leader back then, everyone shares it, showing the equality amongst the group and the equality that Steven hopes to spread across the galaxy. Then with a flick of White Diamond's cape, we get a whole crop of familiar faces ready to greet us. We get some uncorrupted gems over on the left, many of which you'll recognize from Change Your Mind among other episodes. We got Biggs just chilling on the mountain, like a boss. Lars and the Off-Colors are over here on the right, as well as a cluster of Nephrites. This one's definitely centipedal because of her Pokeball-shaped eyeball. And of course, all three diamonds in the background, complete with Spinel over here on Yellow's shoulder. Now, I'm hoping that this group picture here contains all the characters that'll play a big role in the series. I'd love to learn more about the Uncorrupted Gems. I'd like to see Lars and the Off-Colors go on more adventures. I'd love to see the Diamonds work towards reformation, cause as many have said already, they're not redeemed yet and still have a ways to go. And of course, I just need more Spinel in my life. Just any kind of Spinel. This is the only time she appears in the intro, which is kind of disappointing, but it's definitely still possible that she'll have an interesting role to play in the story. I actually have a few ideas of my own coming up, so stay tuned for that. We see Steven and company running through a field. Another thing very familiar to fans of the old intro, except this time we get a panning shot instead of just a side view. Again, familiarity mixed with updates. We also get a shot of Little Homeworld in the background, which I hope will be used a lot more in the upcoming series to allow new gems to get used to Earth, as I mentioned once before. But then we get to the part where most people's jaws hit the floor and break. This screen here. These seem to be our potential antagonists for this little mini-story. That or this is a crossover with regular show where High Five Ghost possesses all the characters, which I would totally watch. But anyway, amongst these faces we have Jasper, who makes complete sense as a possible antagonist, and I explained why in my last video, so go check that out. We also have some kind of evil Cactus Steven abomination, which I've never seen in the show before. I know that Steven can bring plants to life as shown with the Watermelon Stevens, but the only place I ever recall cactuses in the series were those suspicious looking cactuses from Cry for Help, and those were just a one-off joke. Maybe there'll be an episode where Steven accidentally brings a massive cacti to life and it turns into a monster. Or more interestingly, maybe the Watermelon Stevens actually created some kind of Frankenstein's monster plant as some sort of way to protect the island, but it ends up going rogue. Not sure if cacti would even exist on their island, but it would be nice to give the Watermelon Stevens a bit of a role in the story too. Now this little thing over here was by far the most interesting of the bunch. It looks extremely similar to Aquamarine, who we all know and love, but with bits of red scattered across her body, bigger wings, 4 legs, and a helmet-shaped head. My prediction is that this is most likely an Aquamarine and Eyeball fusion. Why do I think this? Well, Aqua and Eyeball both have 2 legs, and fusions often add limbs together. They're both tiny, so the fact that their fusion will be tiny as well makes perfect sense. And for those that think this can't be Eyeball because we don't see her gem, look closer. Notice that the glow on this character is coming not just from the eyes, but from Aquamarine's teardrop gem as well. The same can be seen on Jasper's nose gem. If the gems are glowing as well as the eyes, it's definitely possible that under one of those glowing eyes is Eyeball's ruby gem. It's also clear that whoever made this fusion doesn't understand fusion at all, since it looks very similar to Cotton Candy Garnet, another sloppy form which was also done by two gems that didn't get fusion at first. You can predict whatever you want, but the pieces all fall together perfectly for me. Or hey, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it's just Aquamarine and some very awkward battle armor. Awkward Marine. We get two more Lapis Lazulis, which might have been co-workers or even friends of the Lapis we know and love. I'm not sure what to expect from these two, but if they are on the villain side, then they're gonna have a massive advantage, since Lapis Lazulis have water manipulation powers on par with the Avatar, and could cause some major damage. Just look at our Lapis's abilities for reference. Next up is what looks like White Diamond clutching her head in agony. This confused me at first since White already appeared at the beginning of the intro, happy as can be. But there are a few things that this could be referring to. It's possible that my fears of White Diamond being hit by a Rejuvenator might actually happen, turning her into a temporary villain of sorts. We never really got to experience White as a true villain considering how quickly she swaps sides and changes your mind, so maybe this was a way to compensate for that loss and also give the other two diamonds someone to match their strength. Or, my personal favorite prediction, this represents White's inner demons and old ideologies tormenting her. The way she's holding her head makes it seem like she's internally suffering, being reminded of the once perfect world in the palm of her hand and thinking that maybe she wants to go back to the way things were. This would not only bring about some fantastic character development for the most underdeveloped character in the series, but it would show that her quick turn to the good guy's side was not healthy. She didn't have the same mental awakening that Peridot did, and as such, is conflicted over which side she stands on. Please, please, please let that be what that means. A rejuvenated diamond would be epic too, but this would be monumental, and would give the rushed events of Change Your Mind a really satisfying payoff and a reason to exist. Lastly is the gigantic centipede creature in the background. I only have one idea what that could be. Remember how I said previously that the cluster would be an ideal earth protector and could easily crush most enemies with a single fist bump? Well, maybe the villains prepared for that, and created their own gigantic monstrosity that could actually give the cluster a run for its money. I mean, look at how that thing towers over everybody else. Heck, it's even bigger than White Diamond. If the villains really wanted to cover all their bases, they would likely have something to fight against the cluster, and this might be it. But all those villain reveals are nothing compared to Steven driving his own car. Yup, not only does older Steven have a neck, but he also has a driver's license. No need to hitch rides from Daddy Dearest anymore, Steven is street legal. We see him driving down the road with all his friends in tow and some really dynamic animation being shown off. Perry is still surfing on her trash can lid from Change Your Mind, which is awesome. They drive past the big donut like they usually do, and we see all our favorite human characters hanging out with various gems, showing just how comfortable both groups now are with each other. They chill on the beach as the title presents itself, and as a little bonus to Peridot fans like me, she gets the last verse before we close out. I think she's just really happy to finally be in the show's intro, and she just had to make her presence known again. Next thing you know, she'll be singing this. Here I am in the intro, it's about time. Overall, this is a pretty awesome first taste of what's to come. Plenty of things to theorize about, some familiar callbacks, certain things that fans have wanted for a while, and a clear upgrade in animation quality. I'll admit that I am a little worried about this being a limited series, since the intro alone shows off a lot of potential stuff which I hope won't be rushed through, but I'm gonna keep my head held high and see what the series creators have in store for us. I'm likely gonna review every episode just as a nice little send-off to one of my favorite shows, and I'm really eager to see how the rest of the community reacts to this. The potential is there, Crooniverse. Let's see how well you guys use it. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Feel free to tell me your thoughts on my predictions, and subscribe for more Steven Universe and cartoon content. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.